a much more confrontational episode this week. We have superpowers manifesting in people. We have a modern timeline, I guess, where there's a little bit more of a confessional quality. We're looking at the camera. We're breaking the fourth wall. Characters are coping with existential crises, confronting their personal and relationship issues, confiding surprising secrets in others, and discovering their neighbors are secretly evil witches, ensnaring them in a cruel and twisted trap that manipulates their past emotional trauma to siphon off their magical abilities. Standard TV fare, really, guys. Welcome to MCU Pod, a companion podcast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your host, Grant Davis, and this week my co-host, Mike Moody Garcia, is stuck in the Hex bubble. We hope he's landed a sweet speaking role. He's not freezing on the edges of the bubble during Halloween night. While Mike's away, we're fortunate once again to be joined by frequent guest host, Randy Lander of the TV Dudes podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Aside from this week being generally just awful.
Neither rain nor sleet nor the historic snowstorm will stop the MCU pod.
I guess if we have to go and drive out and rig our phones so that we can have some internet access out in the middle of nowhere, we're going to make this happen.
I'm just saying UPS isn't running right now, but the MCU pod is. It's us and HEB. That's a Texas joke. Nobody's outside Texas. Any idea what I'm talking
about? And then we're joined straight from Hogwarts by Jason Murphy. I've not seen you in a while. I mean, it's appropriate for the witches that we have showing up in the show that a wizard here.
I was like, Hogwarts? Is that wizard boy?
It's a wizard man. You're a wizard man. Alan Moore has joined us to talk about this week's WandaVision.
Alan Moore doesn't own that many comics.
That's right.
I do have it here. I have Jason Murphy, literary author, screenwriter, and YouTube deviant of The Modern Rogue. Check that out over on YouTube. Jason, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is I was sitting here formulating my plans. This is the new show, right? Where everyone tries to connect everything and says this is Grant's new Lost, where it's like
this is me going bonkers and everyone
this is Grant turning into Pepe Sylvia all over again.
This is everyone's face having to listen to me right here. Right there. Just anyway, stroking my ego there. Before we get into everything, I just want to say, audience, if you've tuned in for the first time, welcome. We do a live stream over on YouTube. You can check it out. You can comment live with us. We can see your comments and we can pop them on, like Will Morris saying, "Stupid ice storm." Happened here too. Sorry, Will. It does suck. And we appreciate you guys joining us over on YouTube. If you are there, go ahead and hit subscribe. You can hit the notification button so when we go live, you get notified. It's kind of nice. We are also an audio podcast, so if you want to subscribe to us on any of your audio podcast platforms, you can do that as well. We appreciate all of that. We are dedicated to talking about everything in the MCU. We started this off because we knew that WandaVision would be debuting and we'd be able to talk week to week on a TV show. And it seems like as soon as this one's over, Winter Soldier and Falcons get right around the corner, and that's going to be a lot of fun to discuss as well. Yeah. So hopefully you stay tuned.
6 episodes, is that right? Or
I think that's right. It's a shorter show,
but they're all an hour long.
Oh, I think you may be right. Yeah,
as long as they're giving us more time, I'll accept it's shorter. Although we're supposed to get an hour long for the last 2 episodes, I think, of WandaVision as well.
Right. Was this week's longer? I didn't notice.
I don't think so.
It's 39 minutes.
Okay.
It's just like with the rest of them, the credits cut in at about the midway point.
Yeah. 39 minutes, which means 12-minute episode.
Right. Yeah. You can't put a mid-credit sequence in this late in the show when we're used to, that's just 10 minutes of credits.
Exactly.
For those of you that are joining us on the chat, if you want to go ahead and type in POD, all caps, POD at the front of your comment, it'll make it a little easier when I'm looking over here to the side that I can see it and just pop it on screen. And then another little note, we are now up on Patreon. So if you guys want to come support this little podcast adventure of ours, you can do so at patreon.com/MCU Pod. We appreciate all of the support over there. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this week's episode. Breaking the Fourth Wall is the 7th episode of WandaVision, written by Cameron Squires and directed by Matt Shakman. The IMDb synopsis for this one was, Monica plots her return. Wanda navigates unsettling complications, and Vision forms a new alliance. Now, normally, as Randy, you are well accustomed to, we do a thing called Hot Quakes, which is our hot takes, but with Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as recommended by our audience. I didn't like that because I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I decided this week we're going to do something a little bit new. That's right. We're doing Snap Judgments. Renamed it. Made a little video for it.
You know what's perfect about that? My comic book reviews were originally called Snap Judgments.
Oh, is it?
Right.
Well, look at that. Jason, you get to kick things off this week because we haven't even heard what you even think about this show, about MCU diving into TV, and about episode 7.
Yeah, I love the show. I love how bold it is. It does a lot of bold things with just how much they can ask of the audience. I remember back in the day, I remember joking about this with you guys a long time ago when they said that they were doing a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And I just thought, no, they're not. And they did. Right. And so I think now they've realized, we can do a lot of the traditional comic stuff as it is in the comics and get away with it. And I really appreciate that they're trying all of this crazy stuff. Now, at this point in the story, I really expected the facade to break down more and for the episodic, like, this episode feels like this generation and this episode feels like this generation. I thought they would have abandoned that already now that, we've seen behind the curtain. But instead, they're still going in ways that they don't even overtly acknowledge. And so I really like how, they're swinging for the fences in a lot of ways, doing some weird stuff. I'm a little concerned because this one started it's going downhill real quick. Not like it's bad, but it's in that it's like, the safeguards are off.
The construct is imploding.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of crazy stuff going on there. And I thought there were some abrupt reveals that were a little, I don't know how spoilery we want to get. Full spoiler?
Full spoiler, yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's watching at this point.
Like, I knew who Agnes was, right? But then that reveal of her as a cackling villain and I thought, okay, not only does that not make sense to the comic book nerd, but this doesn't really necessarily, right now, make a whole lot of sense to the narrative of the show either. It just feels like, I know she's been this ever-present, like, trickster character almost, but then to reveal her, and I know we're all like, everything's wrapped in a facade and an enigma and everything. That part felt very kind of abrupt to me. It's like, I mean, I knew this moment was coming, but still, it just feels kind of like the last season, the last couple of episodes of Game of Thrones, where it's just like, all right, here it goes. Let's just throw everything at the screen, Feels a little crazy. I like it. I'm still in. I'm just a little nervous.
Randy, how are you feeling? Week 7.
I'm fully in love with the show right now. I remain. I still think episodes 1 and 2 could have been better, but I now kind of see what they were doing, especially since I get to this episode and we're seeing the just dead on Modern Family riffs. And I see that in addition to being a Scarlet Vision story, this is someone's love letter to classic sitcoms. And as someone who loves a lot of sitcoms from like the 80s and up, we're now in my wheelhouse, and I'm into the whole show, not just the parts with Wanda and Vision. And so I loved all of this. I think that bringing the Modern Family stuff to where it directly references the WandaVision stuff, where basically everybody knows she's got powers. It's not like They're not pretending that it's like she's not doing the bewitched thing. It is like the jokes are part of the show, that Vision and Darcy cannot get back to her because of the crazy circus antics and all that stuff. It's creepy and weird, but it's also funny. And I think they've hit that balance in a way that kind of surprised me, given that I thought the balance was really off in the beginning. I think that the Agatha reveal is interesting because, for one thing, I don't know if I outright said the way I did with Mephisto. I'm like, Mephisto's not in the show. I did say I don't know if that's Agatha Harkness, because they've been tricking us throughout. And they did the bit where last episode where Vision touched her and she seemed to be a normal person who just like wasn't aware of any of this. And that was such a great head fake, because I bought it 100%. I was like, oh, she's not Agnes. She's not Agatha Harkness. That's a fake out. So when they did the swerve this week, I was like, wow, that's really cool.
And she's dressed as a witch.
and God damn it, I was wrong again, which is starting me to think that basically I'm wrong about everything, and Mephisto's going to be in the next 2 episodes.
You know, I feel like if Reddit predicts it, they figured it out.
That's why I stay away from Reddit. I don't want people putting together clues from like a crowdsourcing thing, because I don't want to know things.
I mean, television's ruined by Reddit. But at the same time, I mean, it's speeded up the pace at which TV storytelling happens. Like, you can't hold on to a secret and have that be the big reveal at the end of the season. That's got to be the reveal at the end of the episode, or maybe next episode.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do that long game with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
they're doing really well at posing those cliffhangers at the end of each episode, though.
Yeah, they are.
They're really adept at that.
Pretty great build up. We got a comment here from Not Keith, who says, I find this to be refreshing to the MCU. It seems, sorry, I'm butchering what you wrote there. I find this to be refreshing MCU. It seemed monotonous storytelling of the films, and I like how the era feels like it's representing Wanda's understanding of what's going on.
How dare you? Monotonous storytelling of the films. How dare you? But I get what you're saying.
I mean, the possibilities of having much more long form storytelling to flesh these things out. We were talking the other week, Randy, about how little exposure we had to the characters of Wanda and Vision from just a few scenes here and there throughout the other films. And now we get a full season to see how they interact and engage with each other, what their backstory is, what Wanda's trauma is. And I don't know if this is it's weird to say a facsimile of Vision, because he in himself is already a synthezoid or whatever.
Right.
But is this the true Vision, or is this Vision an amalgam of Wanda's memories instilled into him? Or is it a version of Vision reanimated via the Nexus? I don't even know.
Well, notice he doesn't really, in this, he doesn't really act like Vision. You know, we haven't gotten a lot of Vision acting as a person, but, you know, he's not very robotic. It seems like he's acting like Wanda's idea of Vision as a supportive, bumbling husband, you know, and you don't really see a lot of the Vision that you see in Ultron and Civil War, and et cetera, where he's a little bit more of a robot.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, like, he seems to have a degree of autonomy, even if occasionally that's stripped away from him when she like makes him forget stuff. Like, he seems like his own independent person, right?
But the question is, did she give him that? Does she want him to be that independent person? So she gives it to him until it becomes inconvenient, at which point she starts ordering him around, like she did in episode 1. Like she did basically kind of, she sent him off at some point. Like, she definitely manipulates him when she feels like it. And I wonder if it's basically, she didn't want him to just have no free will, but she wants him to have a free will that she ultimately controls.
Right. I mean, again, I'm at a loss for what is fully the deal with Vision. My current operating theory is he's real, and somehow maybe she wasn't even the one who brought him to life. They opened up, maybe Westview exists at a nexus point between the multiverse, and they've enshrouded it in a bubble, and they're using, they being Agatha and maybe Mephisto or whoever, are channeling and siphoning off Wanda's energy in order to open up that portal to do with what they will. But at the same time, there's a trade-off in that they brought over a version of Vision into this world that she can use as her Weekend at Bernie's play toy.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's like, are these constructs of her mind? Because like some people when they leave the thing, some people when they leave the hex, they are what they were when they went in, right? But if you look at Vision, what's his story when he came out?
Yeah, he was disintegrating as if he could not exist outside the hex. Yeah,
and so.
And he changed outfits to his modern outfit. So, and he seemed to have a degree of awareness of things that I thought, well, maybe he does sort of remember once he's outside of the hex. But I don't know what he was remembering. He seemed to be like, help me, help them. They need help.
Right.
Inside. Maybe that's not remembering anything. Don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, the same question goes to the kids. As they pointed out, as Sword pointed out, where did the kids come from?
Right.
There's no corollary. There's no other twins that are able to age up and down that she's pulling from. These are two little demon spawn that are running around from somewhere.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of like big things that we haven't had clarified yet. Like, is this Mephistopheles? What's the real nature of Wanda's power? Is it mutant, inhuman? Is it brought by the stone? What's Agatha's angle in this? What is, is it Doctor Strange kind of magic? Or are we going to get like, Master Pandemonium and, the High Evolutionary? It's like, we still don't know, like, it's like where the rules are. And then that'll help us to, as the comic nerds, like that'll help us determine like, oh, so if it's this, then it's probably this, and this, right?
Right.
Well, we've got so many maybes, it's like, oh, they could go this way, or they could go something like a drastically different direction. So anything can happen.
I mean, this comment from Nicole Jackson says, do you think that Vision can't leave the hex because it's powered by the stone? Which, I mean, possibly if that's his battery and he's operating off of that.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like he doesn't have, I mean, he has the stone in his forehead, but that stone was destroyed by Thanos.
Yeah.
So
in
that's
this reality.
What is that stone? Like, where did she grab a stone from another reality? Wanda's powers also come from the Mind Stone. So was she able to recreate it? The question of what Vision is so key to this. And I think Jason made a good point. I think one of the reasons that Reddit can't fully destroy this show the way it could, other shows like Game of Thrones or Lost, where you say, oh, what they did wasn't as interesting as what Reddit came up with.
No one destroyed Lost.
Go on. Sorry. But it's harder for them to do that because I think these showrunners have learned, they're like, if we give them so much to digest and think about, they've got so many blind alleys, they can't possibly predict what's actually going to happen. And I think they've done that in a way that could be super frustrating. They could go into sort of Christopher Nolan territory. We're like, well, I just give up. I don't know just tell me your story. I don't know. But instead, it's very satisfying because all these blind alleys are also interesting. And the only thing I'm worried about is, can they land this bird? The ending is going to be a key thing. Like, if the ending doesn't land and answer these questions satisfying, people might get mad. I've never seen that happen before with TV, but it could happen here.
And we still don't know what Pietro's deal is like.
Right. Is he like? Is
you
he
guys
like
saw the end stinger, right?
Yeah.
Wait, what? There was an end stinger?
Oh, you didn't see it?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jason. They did a mid credits this time. It's a small little thing, but basically Monica is nosing around, and Pietro comes up behind her and says, "Snooper's gonna snoop."
There he is. He pops up as she finds the basement of Agatha's house, and she opens it up, and she looks at him and he goes, "Snooper's gonna snoop," and then it cuts to black, and it was like a weird thing to say.
Yep.
Weird outfit to be wearing. It looks like he's still trapped in the 90s.
So
even though the rest of it progressed.
I want to know if Pietro is like the kids, basically a creation, that maybe it's Agatha's creation, not Wanda's, whatever, or if he is a mask for someone else. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's Mephisto. And maybe, because he was being sort of casually cruel and, kind of poking and prodding Wanda in previous episode, but I don't know.
I was gonna say if I had the photo, the image where you see Agatha with the purple tendrils on Pietro.
Yeah,
where she's essentially saying she created him.
it sure looks it. It looks like it. Yeah, but that could be another fake out.
But again, if she's pulling from the Nexus, and she's playing with this, okay, maybe you guys need to explain to me in Marvel Comics what the Nexus implies, because my understanding is it's a cross point between the multiverse and kind of a doorway in which they can kind of jump from one multiverse to another. And if that's the case, she could pull the Evan Peters version of Pietro out and then still play Puppet Master with him in this version, and it's still Quicksilver in a way, but he just doesn't have his autonomy. He has his abilities.
Right.
But what is Nexus then?
Well, the Nexus of cosmic what is it, Jason? Nexus of cosmic reality?
You're about as close as I am. Yeah.
So Nexus of all realities, maybe.
Something like that. Yeah.
Traditionally, it's in the swamps of Florida, and is guarded by the Man-Thing. So moving into New Jersey, Florida, that's probably about right. That makes sense. If it is that Nexus, yeah, it is where basically I think the walls of reality are thinner. It's where Howard the Duck comes through. It's where multiversal travel is easier. And that may be what they're doing here. If they're doing that makes sense that you pulled Pietro from another universe, and maybe Wanda pulled Vision, pulled his essence from another universe, even if she got his body from this one.
Is Man-Thing is like Swamp Thing of Marvel?
Yeah, he's their swamp creature.
Okay.
And then there was even a you guys caught it when Wanda's living room was kind of on the fritz and things were, the walls were changing and the furniture was changing. There was like a crane or some sort of bird that disappeared in a puff of red smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the swan from the
episode 4.
Yeah, what is it?
5?
Is it a crane?
It's a crane. It was episode 3. It was the pregnancy episode. Yeah,
the stork.
Okay.
It was the stork, right?
The stork. Yeah, the stork.
Of course. And then when it disappeared in a puff of red smoke, I just thought, come on. No, it's like there's a lot of crazy stuff you could throw in this show. And at the top of that list is the devil. So, I mean, maybe they will, but
they will.
Yeah, Dennis said something about there was a book in Agatha's basement. I thought the same thing. Could that be the Darkhold?
100%. I'm sure it was the Darkhold, which probably means I'm wrong.
I mean, which that goes in some crazy directions.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a picture of it. Didn't they have the Darkhold? I hate to reference this show, but I feel like they had it.
It was
Shield.
Yes.
Someone else put a picture of it next to the Necronomicon. But
yeah,
this evil Darkhold book here.
So the Darkhold is Marvel's Necronomicon. They like to riff on things, but they're the person behind it is not Cthulhu or whatever else. It's Cathon, who is an elder god who at one point possessed Wanda when she lived at Wundagore Mountain. So that is it's Wanda lore. Like, I think even if that's just a nod, they could be going in a direction like this could be Cathon and not Mephisto.
Wrong image. Yeah, I think I heard someone also speculating that Quicksilver could actually be Cathon. And I mean, we're kind of jumping around the place around here on this episode, just in the discussion. But there was also the reveal of her bunny. We got a name for Agatha's bunny, which was Senior Scratch, which is Mr. Scratch, another name for the devil.
Yep.
So it's like, and she said in episode, was it 1 or 2? Episode 2, I think. Something about like the devil's in the details, and she goes, well, the devil's more than in just the details, which is implying that the devil is a character, which might be Mephisto, which is why a lot of people thought Mephisto, especially since that plays into the Wanda storyline, right?
Well, one of our commenters posted it and said, Nicole said, I thought the bee was Mephisto. What was the bee about? Because that was an interesting touch.
Oh yeah, because we saw it looked like a horse fly.
Was it a
maybe?
fly? Because
Yeah.
one of the other names of Mephisto and the devil is the Lord of Lies, or the Lord of Lies, the Lord of Flies. So it could have been a nod.
That whole scene turned very dark and twisted.
Mm-hmm.
And I at first, like, she was looking at the boys uneaten food and
Mm-hmm.
Yo Gabba Gabba on the TV screen.
What
And
a weird specific reference.
I guess, yeah. But I was like, I don't really know necessarily what I'm supposed to be getting from this. And then she's like looking at the door, but then when the fly shows up, I'm like, weird bugs. That's always a sign that something evil's going on. Yeah, I mean, the whole buildup there was they do something throughout the series, but throughout this episode, they were doing the playful music of the sitcom that is juxtaposed very discordantly with something traumatic or sinister going on. And a lot of it was with Wanda, like having a mental breakdown in front of us, and it all just being played off as wacky.
Yeah.
When in reality, no, there's something really wrong here. She had her kids being like, "Mom, I'm having headaches and problems with my powers. I don't know how to deal with this." And she's like, "Get out of here. It's mom day." And, and like the wacky music in the background is just playing off of that in a way that just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I love how all the circus stuff with Vision and Darcy really felt like a Brian Fuller TV show.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, or like Arrested Development or something. Like they hop in the wacky funnel cake car and like their adventures.
Yep. By the way, you know that I have bashed on TV Dudes numerous times, Two Broke Girls, that I hated that show.
You even added a broke girl to it.
I thought it was, I added it. Well, in this universe, it was Three Broke Girls.
Okay.
And the Berenstain Bears and Vision's still alive. And I don't have any affection for that sitcom, but there's no denying that Kat Dennings is sort of a sitcom icon because she was on that for a long time. And I like the sort of meta nod of her playing her sitcom character a little bit here. I thought that was kind of fun.
Her outfit even had kind of the similar design to her waitress embroidery on there. Yeah. That part of the storyline, I thought it was fun, but it really also felt off from everything else in a way that it seemed like we need those characters around. We need a reference to what's going on with them, but that's not the driving force of what's going on in this particular episode. It's Monica getting into the bubble to confront Wanda, and Wanda going through a breakdown while Agatha does the mustache twirly reveal, or at least partial reveal. So one of the things that we haven't discussed then is Monica and Wu. I mean, we got a real brief nod to the rest of S.W.O.R.D. We got Hayward. He like moved back apparently 8 miles away from the bubble, and they're mounting some big secret attack, but they can't see the TV signal anymore. That's kind of all that's going on there.
But there was a big reveal here, which is the big reveal was that Hayward was trying to put the Vision back together again and build a weapon, and he doesn't care about Wanda. He is just here to get Vision back. That was a big reveal of motivation.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just say that just changes his motivation, I think, a little bit.
I'm wondering if they're going to bring Dr. Cho back in from Age of Ultron, because she was one of the ones that helped them put. I'm hoping we would see her again. She was one of the ones that put Vision together.
Right. And it seemed like there's a bunch of speculation about who could be the aerospace engineer that Monica turns and winks to the camera like, I know a person. Yeah. And you're like, who's it gonna be? Is it gonna be Reed Richards? Is it gonna be Hank McCoy? Who's it gonna be? I don't know. And then we get this character. Who was it? Major Goodner.
Yeah, Major Goodner. Who there's no I looked up Marvel Major Goodner because I didn't know of anything. Yeah. All I came up was Martin Goodman, who was the publisher of Marvel originally, and I'm like, maybe that was a nod, but I think this was just a weird miscue, or I don't think they meant to set us up for this to think, oh, who's this aerospace engineer? I think they were just like pointing, hey, next time we're gonna have a big thing designed by somebody. But it was weird to sort of hang a lampshade on that and then do nothing with it.
Right.
Yeah, it did. I was expecting like, oh, they've already. It's they did the move. They played their hand that said that all bets were off, right?
Mhm.
When Evan Peters shows up,
Yep.
like, okay, I don't know what you guys are capable of. You guys are like off the reservation now. And so I thought maybe that that they're like, oh wow, I mean, if we're doing that big, then aerospace engineer, probably not Reed Richards. I thought Adam Brashear, who has a connection to Monica
Mhm.
in the comics as of late, anyway. But yeah, seeing Blue Marvel would be amazing. But then
Yeah.
again, it's like you introduce Blue Marvel into anything, it's like the guy's basically a god.
Mhm.
It's like having to do that tap dance whenever you say like, oh well, where was Captain Marvel during this fight?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that Major Goodner is just a soldier, a loyalist from Maria Rambeau's time
Mhm.
who delivered this vehicle to her, and that the aerospace engineer hasn't been revealed yet, whoever that was. We don't
Maybe.
know that Major
Yeah.
Goodner was that aerospace engineer because there's no dialogue to indicate that she did anything to construct this thing for her.
Right.
She just simply met her and delivered it to her and then helped like shuttle it through unsuccessfully through the hex.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, we could be in for a either late in WandaVision or a Captain Marvel 2 reveal of who the aerospace engineer is.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, and it's gonna be Doctor Strange. Oh yeah, I got my
Once I
PhD in aerospace engineering on the
Yeah,
side.
once I stopped operating on people and became the Sorcerer Supreme, I audited a few classes on aerospace engineering just for fun.
Lynda.com. This episode is brought to you by Lynda.com.
So I do have to say, talking about Monica, this is one of my favorite characters, and I know everybody else is watching a Wanda and Vision show, but I'm watching the origin of Monica Rambeau and her powers. So this week was great for me. Seeing her actually get I was pretty sure it was going to happen, but seeing it confirmed, seeing her get those powers, and seeing her face off with Wanda, and I love because Monica has a power level that is on the level of Vision and Captain Marvel and
Yeah.
Wanda. Like she is one of the most powerful people in the Marvel universe, and I love that they played that right up. Even though we haven't seen her use those powers yet, like when she's facing off with Wanda, it's like she is on that level and she doesn't have to be afraid of her.
Right. Um, they show a scene where she seems to have this extra sensory vision going
Mhm.
on where
Mhm.
she's able to see like sound waves and see things in like a different color set.
Yep.
That was really cool how they visualized that, and I liked I like seeing that scene and the fact that she can turn it off. I was like, oh, good, okay, she can toggle that on and off. But when she confronts Wanda, there's that great landing move where she does the superhero landing.
Yeah.
I even have this graphic of the superhero landing. But it's cool because it looks like she's got this blue power energy wave. You see Wanda with the red, and then you see Agatha with the purple, and it's just going to be this color storm of them, I guess, eventually with their energy signals
Yeah.
fighting each other. And yeah, it seems like she's just discovered her powers, but she doesn't really know how to use them yet. And so otherwise you might see her actually like square off against Wanda, which would be something to see. But now Wanda's not necessarily the enemy.
Right.
She's another person just clearly being manipulated.
So I do want to talk about the Agatha reveal. One thing that's interesting is that Agatha's reveal comes in the context of the show, the meta show. So we get the theme song, which is great. We get all the flashbacks to what she was doing, and I'm like, if she's not the one, if Wanda's the one creating the meta narrative, or is someone else creating the meta narrative, and Agatha and Wanda are both caught in it? Like, someone else mentioned in the chat that they're not buying that Agatha's the bad guy. They think that's another fake out, and I'm kind of in the same place because partly she's never been a bad guy in the comics. She's been mysterious and kind of enigmatic, but not like vicious and evil.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this is a fake out, if someone is controlling both of them. And could that someone be Cathon? Could it be Mephisto? Could it be Quicksilver weirdly? I don't know.
Well, look at that. Just makes me think. If you look at all of the signs that they're laying out in front of us, not just for this show, but for the implications that this show has with the greater MCU. In this show alone, if you're starting to introduce like real like magic, because I mean, Randy and we've read a lot of comics with Scarlet Witch. Can we still explain her powers?
No,
not really.
No.
So it's like, is it magic? Is it a mutant ability? I don't know. But in this, they're like, oh no, like magic, not just Doctor Strange type stuff, but like witches and hexes and stuff like that. Look, an evil book that's in here. And then if you look at all the other stuff, they're like, oh yeah, and we've got Blade coming in, and Multiverse of Madness, how they said it was going to be a horror movie, and it's like. It's like they are opening the doors wide right here. And this is our first glimpse, really, that, yeah, they're going to have some like actual magic, horror, vampires, who knows? I mean, because they're talking about Blade and vampires and everything, but, what no one has brought up is that, oh, yeah, Dracula. Are you ready to like Dracula?
Right.
I mean, I am sure, but it's one of those things where it's like, how are they going to slide all of this into the show?
I think considering that our reveal of Agatha Harkness or Agnes entering into the scene, when she does her intro segment, it seems like she showed up at the door after the bubble had already been created, which makes me think that they're kind of having it both ways, where they're not absolving Wanda of creating this. Wanda was depressed, traumatized. She found out that Vision's body was being experimented on, and in a rage went and rescued him, and then created this bubble as this escapist fantasy. But then Agatha caught wind of what was going on through her magic cerebro bubble, whatever, and she decided to be an opportunist and jump in and siphon off of that energy. She's like, oh, you're making this bubble, you're going haywire with your magic powers, I can use that for something else, and as long as I keep you complacent and happy in this, and I redo scenes as you see fit for your little TV narrative, I can continue feeding off of this with my Darkhold in the basement or whatever weird shit she's doing. Because it seems like she's not necessarily like, it doesn't seem like she's completely tricking and she's the villain manipulating Wanda so much as she's playing off of what is already happening, I guess.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I can agree with that. Yeah, she hasn't seemed like she's had a lot of opportunities to be hostile. Like there's some sort of long game going on here, right? And she clearly knows something's going on. And then, seeing the Darkhold, that's just the monkey wrench. Yeah, it's like, all right, I don't know.
I mean, it make it all the more interesting if Wanda is still a villain. Wanda still took and stripped a bunch of other people of their free will in this hex bubble for a sort of emotional salve for herself. But at the same time, she's being manipulated as well. Like there's still something bad that she did and something bad that someone else is doing to her.
Right. I think the thing is that she's been traumatized, and so you can sort of excuse some of her behavior because she was traumatized, because she's not in her right mind. So I guess that's where they're going to... I am worried about that, because one of the things that's happened in the comics is Wanda has been vilified so often that it's kind of like Hank Pym. Once he slapped Janet, he could never get away from that. So even though it was a writer doing a bad thing and it was poorly done and the artist basically Hank was a wife beater from then on, and that's never going to go away. And Wanda in the same way, like Wanda get rid of all the mutants, and Wanda like did all kinds of bad stuff when she went bad when Vision was brought back. And so if you make her too bad, you've kind of lost the character as a viable focus. And I think they got to be careful about that, about just how much did she do here, because we've seen that people are being basically tortured, and that we're seeing that people were hurting. And if she is responsible for all of that, even halfway willingly, it's kind of hard to bring her back from that abyss. So I hope they've got a plan in mind. And seeing Agatha being, in fact, manipulating things, gives me a little hope that they are thinking in that direction.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, God, what would it be like if what we're seeing now is them setting up Wanda as the big MCU villain,
Right?
or one of the big MCU villains going forward?
Guys, can you keep talking? I have to drop out for a minute because I have to go help my neighbor. I'll be right.
Yeah, sure.
Of course. Go ahead.
Jason, can we talk about comic stuff for a while? I don't know if we can maintain a conversation about comic stuff. That's not possible.
We could probably find our way into something like that.
As you and I used to do a comics podcast, Loose Cannon. So I feel like we can talk WandaVision for a while without Grant. It'll be fine.
I think so. Yeah, and that's an interesting parallel that you put, comparing Wanda to her position as Hank Pym, right?
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, Hank Pym is forever stained, right?
Yeah, in the comics, but they managed to rescue him in the MCU because he's a different character. In the MCU, they made him this cranky old bastard, but he's not a wife beater. Yeah. And I think that the MCU is a clean slate, and I'm worried about them not taking advantage of that clean slate for Wanda because they've put her through a lot, and they already had her basically blow up a Wakandan embassy.
Yeah.
So they're dancing on the edge. If they want to make her dangerous, but you can't make her so dangerous that she becomes a bad guy. Unless, like you say, we know she's in the Doctor Strange movie. We don't know if she's there as an ally or an adversary.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's, I mean, you would think that they would use like take that time to expand some of Doctor Strange's villains, and have it, I mean, not Dormammu, but, introduce really anybody else. I know one of the big ones they were talking about was Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're going to go ahead, I mean, I think Marvel, the MCU, has kind of a what now problem, right? Mm-hmm. And that what now problem is like, what do you do after the Infinity War?
Right.
And so it's like, do we resurrect? Do we try to like put some more of our villains up on the front lines? Do we have a heel turn for one of our characters? How do we do that? Because they were almost like after Infinity War, it was almost the aftermath.
Yeah,
it was like, where do we pick up and go from here?
And clearly where they're going is weird, which I kind of like. That WandaVision is such a weird thing, and to some extent, Falcon Winter Soldier looks like an action movie, but it definitely doesn't look like it's a continuation of what was done in Captain America, but it's definitely a different vibe. By the way, Nicole had an interesting point. She said that no one has actually said it's Wanda who's making them feel this way. They just keep saying she, which definitely ties into the notion that Agatha is the one doing it. But is Agatha the big bad, or is she a pawn?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you've got the regular like delivery guy, mail guy, or something like that, and he said something like, "Oh, don't worry, your mom won't let him get very far."
Yeah, we keep seeing that guy.
Yeah,
and I don't know how that's going to pay off.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it seems like dropping a bomb that Agatha was the bad guy all along. I don't think that landed, and so I want to say that there is some artifice to it, that there's some misdirection, because it's like, yeah, of course she plays a huge part in everything that's going on, but I just have real trouble thinking that she's the puppet master, right? Like, I think she's, I don't know. I think she's gotten in over her head or something like that.
So P.W. Gregory makes a point. He says there's this missing witness still out there. The person that Wu was supposed to come and find in the first place. We think that's the delivery guy, right? Like maybe, but we don't know the deal on that guy, like what he was doing out here.
Yeah.
And they haven't, other than mentioning him in episode 4, we really haven't touched on him again. And I don't know if that's like a drop that clue and leave it for us to pick up in episode 8 or 9, or if it was no, that was just a MacGuffin to get him here. Like, I don't actually know if that's going to be a story point or not.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, one of the things is how the show can work its magic, so to speak, in that it really just kind of takes its time. Like you said, you had a problem with the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I really liked them, but they were real coy that something was going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they made you wait, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since, episodes on a streaming service like this can be as long as you want, as long as you want. But I don't know. I really like those first couple because I think that was them letting the showrunners like, listen, we're going to do some crazy stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be real coy with the first 2 episodes, and it's going to play out like 50s and 60s TV show with just a few very minor hiccups, and then you've got Evan Peters showing up, and so it's just like, that's why I was saying earlier, bold. I mean, they're doing some mind-blowing stuff here, not just for Marvel, but just TV, really.
Right. Well, and also they are they've left us out of this as a thing of like, what exactly is going on? Like, we don't actually still know the plot. Like, I think Grant mentioned in the synopsis talking about like Agatha being there to steal her powers, but I think that's just a guess. Like, they didn't say anything about that in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, is she doing this to steal her powers? And if so, was this the most efficient way to do it? And also, the everything blinking right now, is Wanda? Is it Wanda's mental capacity that's being taxed, or have we found the limits of her powers? Is she beyond her power set? And that's the whole point of this, was someone to test how powerful is she? Is someone trying to figure out how much of a threat is she?
Yeah. That's a really interesting possibility. Another thing that I haven't really seen talked about. So, like in Spider-Man: Far From Home, that was Sword, right?
Yeah.
Was it Sword
at the very end?
Far From Home?
Yeah, where Nick Fury is on the ship.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the same Sword we're seeing here.
Yeah. Well, and they have a moon. The thing they brought Monica was like a moon rover. So clearly they were space operated because aliens, like Thanos was an alien. The alien threats were a big threat, but then they refocused it to be superhuman weapons.
Yeah. Okay. And that, if I may digress, like, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. all it takes is Sam Jackson going, all right, you and you go down there and pretend to be Spider-Man for the day. And it's fine. That's it. That's it. It's just Sam Jackson, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., going, no, he's not. Look.
You'd pull Superman, you mean? Just get some Superman robots out there and have
It
Clark Kent pal around with them.
It feels like this territory's been covered in the comics before, and someone's familiar with how writers have covered that.
Yeah.
Sorry I had to leave there for a minute. My neighbor's pipes burst and spraying everywhere, and so she came and asked if we could go turn it off. So
oh man, is your neighbor named Agnes?
She had a weird purple basement.
Did she have a bunny?
I don't know if it was a bunny. It was very cold out there.
It's weird though, because everybody else doesn't know this, but Jason, they recast Grant, right? Like, this wasn't the same guy who was Grant previously.
No, this was
There's a different actor.
Oh, I thought you were the Mexican beerist guy.
I used to be a lot more muscular and handsome. How you get the Evan Peters Grant?
We all did, buddy. We all did. It's called aging.
I'm a better actor, so that's the trade-off. I don't know what you guys already covered or not.
We just kind of danced around Agatha and the nature of realities and stuff a little bit.
Fair. So I wanted to touch back on. Did you guys already? Well, I guess we already talked about the commercial, right? Was there anything else we need to cover on the Nexus?
Not really, because we don't know too much about it. Other than like you said, the tagline: "The world doesn't revolve around you," or does it?
Oh, right.
There's a comment here from P.W. Gregory. He says, "I think Agatha wants someone or something back to life, and she thinks Wanda can do it." That's an interesting idea. That the reason she's here is to see if she can use Wanda's power for that.
She can resurrect, and this is like a test study in
Yeah.
both Vision and Pietro.
Yeah, maybe so. Although we still don't know the deal with Pietro, whether it shows Agatha creating him, but is he something else? Is she just taking credit? Is he in fact running the whole thing? We don't know.
I have friends who are adamant that, oh no, this is the introduction to the mutants in the MCU.
Right.
I don't think it is.
I don't either, but Pietro is a mutant. Pietro is a mutant.
I mean, is Monica, for all intents and purposes, a mutant now?
No, mutants are born with their powers. So she is just like.
Is that what the technicality is? You have to be born with it?
Mutants are born with their powers, yeah.
Well, I don't know if he's alive or not. If it seems like if we include Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse as part of the MCU, which I'm not sure if we can or not, it's a little bit of a gray line there, blurred line, I guess. Then they are dealing a lot with this idea of villains desperate to try and reconnect with people they've lost, because that's the whole thing Kingpin's doing in that movie.
Yeah.
Trying to, like, at all costs go across the multiverse in order to bring someone back from the dead.
Right.
And if that's a little bit of what they're exploring here already with Wanda, and then that being a little bit of what Agatha might be going for, maybe it's already tread on too much, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
One of the questions that I think it's Idlons asked, he said, could this be the first TV show which is required viewing for a film franchise? And I do think they've got to walk that line too, because you can't have someone go to Multiverse of Madness and have no idea what, like, I think it's fair to assume that most of the people going to Marvel movies now have seen most of the TV shows, but I certainly know people who have not watched all the MCU. They just watched the Captain America movies, or they just watched Captain Marvel because they like Brie Larson. Like, they definitely still have to walk that line of these movies have to be accessible to people, and mostly they've managed to do that. But can they recap what happened in WandaVision quickly enough for a Multiverse of Madness?
Wait, Randy, let me back you up there. You have friends who didn't really watch the Marvel movies, but watched Captain Marvel.
Yes.
They like Brie.
Okay, no, probably they watched Captain Marvel because it was a female superhero, and there aren't a lot of those.
Okay.
Probably wasn't a Brie Larson specifically, but someone watched it for Brie Larson.
She's great. She's great. Whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought, of all of them, that one.
I'm currently going through the Harry Potter series with my girls, and we're just listening to the audiobooks, and after we listen to them, we watch one of the movies. In the first 4 books, I would say maybe 5 books, the author is still going along with, like, if this is your first time picking up one of these books, let me try and explain what this world is. And eventually I'd say she drops it around 5 or 6 and just like, you know what? If you're along for this ride, you need to know what this world is from the other books, or else don't bother.
Right.
And
right.
The most egregious of those movies is that 5th Harry Potter movie, because you watch that thing and it is just a clip show of moments from that book because they couldn't figure out how to make even a cohesive narrative from that thing. Yeah. It's a mess. And that's kind of how I feel about people jumping into any of these and going, well, I don't understand. You got to do your homework. Go look at the other ones. Because...
Also, there's Wikipedia. You can catch up.
Yeah, you can. Maybe that's dickish, but I had a couple questions, lingering questions from this episode. We already talked about who is Pietro. Is he someone else in disguise? Is he a magic manifestation of Agatha? Like, she's doing a lot of work there, if that's the case. But we keep touching on this, but like, who are the twins? What are they? Do you guys have any theories there? Also, where'd they go?
I think, obviously, they are Master Pandemonium's demon arms, and that we will see them as demonic arms, just like that comic panel that we showed on episode like 3 or 4.
He's got very adorable arms.
But they're screaming. It's horrific.
I thought the kids were pretty good as far as kid actors go.
I did too, actually. Performance here.
Yeah. I mean, they're clearly gonna put Billy and Tommy in the MCU, right?
I would think so, unless they're just doing. They don't usually just do Easter eggs just for fun,
right?
Because they are definitely nodding at Wiccan and Speed. It would be a shame to lose them and not be pointing toward the Young Avengers with this, and I think they probably are.
It seems like that. Yeah, I mean, come on, they've got Kamala coming up, you know, and, Riri. They're going to throw them all together.
One of the big questions that's here, though, is like, how are they going to end this? That's the big question I have. Is like, how are they going to end this in a way that Billy and Tommy are still around and are teenagers instead of being the age they are now, and Vision, is he still going to be around? And where does Wanda land? Like, we've got 2 episodes to land this bird, and I have no idea how all it's going to shake out.
It's going to be 2 hours, though.
Yeah,
and
essentially
that's as long as an MCU movie that has to tell an entire story. Yeah. And
what sitcoms are they going to reference in the next 2? Because Modern Family's pretty new. Like, what's left?
I don't know if they're done.
It's going to be a Twitch stream.
A Twitch stream, a YouTube show.
Yeah. The Modern Rogue. I don't know if they're gonna just kind of lose it and it's gonna dissolve with the next episode. Like now that she's down in the basement, she's no longer directing her fantasy episode. It seems like the veneer is gone and it's just gonna push right into the action of the show.
Maybe. I don't know.
Do you think Agatha's gonna snap her fingers and she's gonna fall back into a pattern?
I think it's possible. I think that we could get a thing where she doesn't remember what happened in the last bit.
Then I think it's very possible it becomes sort of this amalgamation where she tries to, like, it's a little bit of a flashback of what we were seeing this episode, where the milk was jumping from almond milk to, and someone asked about like why there was a missing kid on the milk carton. I think that was only an indicator of time period, because there was a specific time period in the 90s when they or 80s, then they'd always have like a missing kid on the milk cartons.
Yeah, you had to collect them all.
Yeah,
right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, you got a closet. You need to be briefed before you open it.
But yeah,
old milk cartons.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's
involved in it. But this is gonna be law enforcement will ask questions.
Right. Well, I mean, it was before Pokemon, so
yeah. I mean,
maybe it'll start off with some sort of Modern Family sitcom, a la ABC Family, one of those shows, before it obviously just starts jumping off the rails and jumping between time scenes.
Yeah,
because I think we got that one scene where we see Vision and her, and he's jumping between his different like images and looks.
Right.
He's like, what is happening? I think that's what we're gonna see next week, where everything is out of flux.
That would be interesting. I want to see them mix it up, and since I do like them riffing on the sitcoms as well now, I would love it if they did like a Bewitched, but with the talking to the camera, or a like if they mix all that stuff together and do some of the tropes of different shows and mix the tropes across genres and across time periods. That'd be interesting. That'd be a fun way to do something different without having to just jump to what sitcoms were like in the 10s or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, now that the one scene that like I thought was fantastic this episode was the interview scene where we have Wanda saying, I don't know why I can't fix it. And then the interview goes, do you think this is what you deserve?
Mm-hmm.
And it totally sounded like a guy's voice. I didn't think that was Catherine Hahn, but I guess.
Right. But then they show that it was her. Yeah.
And her turn of like, you're not supposed to talk. Mm-hmm. But there's this show is really smart in the way that it says it's talking about breaking the fourth wall. And not only is there this breaking the fourth wall of the show within the show, but they're breaking the literal hex wall as Monica's entering, and the show within the show breaks the fourth wall of showing the outside bubble as part of the TV show. Like they show all those soldiers before they get absorbed as part of the show. And I'm like, so whatever is the camera of this show exists inside and outside of the bubble at will of Wanda or whoever is the director.
You actually bring up an interesting thing that I thought of a couple of episodes is what if the whole exploration of the bubble? Because there were times when I thought this feels kind of like a modern action TV show with lots of like taking the sunglasses off, It's like, are there levels of fiction going on here?
Interesting.
Do you think like the woo and oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think there are, but it occurred to me where we could see something crazy like that.
Yeah, I think they are doing
Woo and Rambo are also like puppets in this larger story.
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing meta nods, like because we know we're watching a show within a show, to show the audience, hey, you're also watching a show that's about a show within a show. But I don't think we're actually going to go quite that deep. I think that is more of the Easter egg meta nod kind of thing. But that'd be a huge mind fuck.
But what if Jason's right? What if like this show is supposed to take place, or WandaVision is supposed to take place in like 2023, right? And what if the 2020 version is, or 2021 version is WandaVision bubble where two agents show up to a bubble to investigate it?
Is this all going to end with us pulling out and we see that it's like an alien playing with marbles, just like the end of Men in Black? Is that where we're going here?
I am going to have a nosebleed.
Sell.
Insane. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Apologies that I had to run out the door here. If you guys don't know, Texas is a little wacky right now. But I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has joined us live here on the stream. Remember, you can follow us at mcupod.com, at mcupod on Twitter. And you can also follow our YouTube stream where you can subscribe to that. And I think it's still like some long convoluted URL until we hit a certain number of subscribers. So subscribe, and then I'll change the URL to youtube.com/MCU Pod or something. But thank you guys once again for joining. Jason, where can people find you?
You can find me multiple days a week over at youtube.com/modernrogue. And I got a book. I got a book here that you can get on Amazon. It's like Ghostbusters, but they're idiots.
So like Ghostbusters. The Killer Candy. Yeah. It's really
Candy, Jason Murphy. Yes. Book 1 in the Occultech series. A couple more books in that series should be out this year.
Awesome. Randy?
As always, you can find me over at thetvdudes.com and at roguesgallerytx.com, which is my store, my comics and game store in Round Rock. And we do a podcast there as well. And that's where you find me.
You can find me at Baron Von Grant over on Twitter. You can find Mike at Mike Moody Garcia over on Twitter. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back next week at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here on YouTube doing our live recap of WandaVision episode 8. It's the penultimate episode, so that should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys once again for joining us, and we'll be back.